We've spent quite some time discussing WWE 2K22 and not a lot on the AEW console game, mainly because there is so little known up until this point. It's still called the AEW console game, it doesn't even have a full title yet. And while we don't have a lot to look forward to yet, we do have a history to look back at, and so these are 4 things the AEW game should stay clear of. This will be the first AEW game. It will be new and exciting, and one thing you might do when things are excited is you chuck them full with fun ideas and new mechanics that are all going to make a big difference. Except they don't. We've seen it with countless games in the past that I won't even bother naming any of them. You can think of a game that had so many new features that stood in the way of a balanced and fun game. And for a wrestling game, especially the first in a series, it's likely for the best if you keep everything just a little bit basic, balanced, and easy. The inspiration is drawn from old N64 wrestling games, just modernized, so I think we'll stay clear of gimmicky mechanics in matches. That's not really my concern. My concern is getting convoluted stadium matches or death matches that don't really fit in with the rest of the matches that are in the game, like your standard one-on-ones. It's one of the reasons we don't have a War Games match in 2K either. It's just too different from everything else we have in the game that it would need so much development time for just this one match type. It's not worth it. After all, it's not like death matches happen often anyway, so if you can't make them balanced and fit the game, just keep them out. Add them in a AEW The Game 2, or whatever next installment would be called. The Casino Battle Royale is worth a shot in terms of development, as it's been a reoccurring match that's quite original and unique to AEW, but again, you don't want that match half-arsed, so if you can't get it balanced, don't include it in the game. Basically, you want a good product. So if you can't get some of the things quite right, cut your losses and try again in the future. AEW has been on a massive signing spree, and simply put, we're not getting close to having the full roster in the game. And so, it's important to not spend massive amounts of time getting a huge roster. Now don't get me wrong, a big roster is a good thing, the more the merrier, but again, this is AEW's first game. Before getting all this work done on 80 or so wrestlers, or maybe even more, scale it down a bit. A roster of 50 to a maximum of 60 is more than enough. Keep it to the originals as well. Get Omega, Cody, Moxley, the Bucks, the Four Pillars, etc. For instance, I love Malachi Black, my fellow Dutchman. But if he's not in the game because they are focusing on getting the engine right, then that's absolutely fine. It's better to have good-looking and detailed characters that make it seem like a true AAA game, instead of getting mediocre-looking characters that make it seem like a cheap indie. What we've seen from trailers so far is good, but don't downscale it to get more characters in. I can understand the temptation, but let's keep quality over quantity. The leading franchise in wrestling games are the WWE games. You can say Fire Pro Wrestling, but it's a big niche in a style and hardly screams AAA, despite its expensive license and price tag. For a long time, fans have been begging for the return of GM mode, getting a good story mode, add a career mode. Create a story is still widely requested from the WWE games, and that's where the problem is for the WWE games. The GM mode, as the GM mode mobile game proved, just isn't that exciting if there's no in-game competition. AEW doesn't have brands, so a roster split doesn't make sense. You could face Tony as you'll book Rampage and Tony Khan does Dynamite, but with the same roster, that's not logical either. So don't include a GM mode that WWE games fans want if it doesn't fit the AEW game. WWE 2K and the AEW console game might share the same genre, but they are on two different lanes. With the mobile game, I personally feel they tried to close a gap in the market, and that's smart, but the execution just wasn't there. They tried, and now it's time to take the experience of that experiment and realize that it's not up to AEW to fill the 2K void of recent years and take their own spot in the wrestling market instead. Considering who are working on it, the reports we've heard so far, and the way the company is set up, we'll likely see an array of title updates. And I'm all for long-running games. I've mentioned how simplicity would have to have the main focus. That's why they really shouldn't go overboard with title updates. The first AEW game should have a lifespan of 1 to 2 years, so AEW and Jukes can get player feedback, work on a part 2, add more details to that part, and go out on that one. They need to know when to stop and don't go overboard. And one thing when it comes to potential DLC, affordable packs with 3 or 4 characters are better than singular stars that you buy separate. AEW is all about respecting all their workers, but some just aren't worth a separate purchase. Sorry, it's just true. That will just put people off in the long run. I'd be lying if I'd say that I'm AEW's biggest fan, but I do absolutely hope that they'll succeed. More great wrestling games will only mean the genre can grow and thrive. Hopefully, next time we speak of the AEW game, it's about a cool trailer or an interesting piece of news, but it was time we gave the AEW game some love as well. Now it's time to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Please do like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content, and of course, thank you for watching.